what was in the finance bill was to increase CDF by 10 billion shillings to roll out ICT hubs in every ward in the Republic of Kenya, so that we can hire young people, train them, put them on digital jobs. I have a third program on export of labor.
Mr. President.
I have a fourth program on manufacturing, to be able to create more opportunities for the young people of our country.
And we want to inform you, they're no longer just talking about things that can be done to them as a demographic. They are looking at the big picture. Finance bill brought them out. And when did they come in? They came in after all public participation forums were not listened to. Kenya Association of Manufacturers spoke to the parliamentary committee, same thing, and said this is a bad bill. Association of Insurance spoke to the parliamentary team, this is a bad bill. We had a big conversation on national television, this is a bad bill. You did not listen. You had a meeting here with your UDA MPs, and at some point told them to pass it as it is. And until the last week, that was the first Tuesday when the protests were there, when now you offered to some amendments. They're saying you're just not listening, and it's not about them, it's about the big picture issues, and we'll come to them, including the question of corruption, which is not really a youth thing.
Indeed, Mr. And just to add on to that, Mr. President,
have been more.
Mr. President, I just want to come
in your analysis.
I just want to add on to that, Mr.
Because
I want to add on to
because
that.
let me just finish it. Nilo.
It's the same question. It's the same question. Mr. President, if you went into all the X spaces where the youth are speaking, if you looked at the demonstrations and what they were saying, the placards they are carrying, none of them has talked about we don't have jobs. None of them have talked about the housing jobs are not enough for us. None of them have talked anything about what you have mentioned. So it's not that they are not seeing about the jobs. It is beyond that, Mr. President. And respectfully, I want to put it to you that you're not hearing what they're saying.
In fact, we only had after the protests, after all those things you described, that's the time that you came and said,
let me tell you the following. The rejection of the finance bill, and this goes to what Linus has said, that we didn't hear anything. Let me tell you, the process of a finance bill, in fact, you know, many people believe in Kenya that the finance bill is an invention of William Ruto. It is not an invention of William Ruto. The finance bill is an instrument that has been with us ever since independence. Only that we have made it much more transparent. Only that we have brought out more to the public. And that is why there is greater interrogation of what government is doing, especially after the new constitution that made public participation not a sterile provision of the constitution, but public participation to be an integral part of lawmaking, an integral part of managing the country. Let me tell you, when we took the bill, when we formulated the bill, it had 346 billion of new revenue. When MPs went out to the public said, we don't think this is good. We don't think this is good. It was reduced by 140-something billion shillings. It remained just 200 billion. Doesn't that amount to listening?
No, it doesn't.
That the public said, reduce this by...
No, it doesn't, no. Mr. President. And that's why I said reject it.
Just wait. No, we are talking about listening.
Yeah.
Just relax. We're talking about listening, okay? So the public said, reduce this by 146. We sat down, we cut down the areas, we reduced it to 200. What went into the space was the people who wanted to mislead the public, to say, oh, you see, in fact, everything you have been told is still there, this was not removed, these people are not listening, these people are not listening. And let me tell you, my good friend Latif, we have dropped the finance bill. Yeah? What does that mean? It means we have gone back almost 2 years. It means that this year we are going to borrow 1 trillion shillings to be able to run our government. That's what it means. I have been working very hard to pull Kenya out of a debt trap.
Mr. President.
Let me just allow me, because we need to contextualize this finance bill. It is easy, Joe. It is easy for us as a country to say, let us reject the finance bill. That's fine. And I have graciously said, we will drop the finance bill. But it has huge consequences. It means we will not confirm the JSS teachers, 46,000 of them. It means we cannot support our farmers with 2 billion shillings for us to make sure that farmers get a fair return of 50 shillings per kilogram, per kilo of their milk. It means we cannot sort out the coffee debts. It means we cannot support the cherry fund. It means we cannot sort out the debts of farmers in Mumias. It also means that we will continue to import potatoes from Europe when we have potatoes in his village. You just told me in Kimana. We have potatoes in Nyandarua. We have onions all over the place.
That may well be. I think the problem has been, these are people who are saying they haven't been listened to. You only listen because you said on that night, on that Wednesday night, that is the moment you said that you had realized, Mr. President, that Kenyans did not want anything to do with that bill. And one would wonder, how can that be, Mr. President? And you have had all these presentations that have been made. Did it have to take demonstrations and sadly loss of lives for you to come to a point where you'd realize what your people, the people that voted for you, are saying? That, I think, is what the young people are asking.
Let me tell you, Joe, members of parliament are representatives of the people, elected. They are not fools and they are not mad. And I want to say, one day, Kenya will know that the MPs who voted yes are the true heroes of Kenya. Those are the people who saw the opportunity for us to unchain our country from debt trap and take our country to the future. Let me tell you, Joe, and I want to say this to the people of Kenya, that my plan was to make sure that in the next 3 years, maximum 4 years, we have a balanced budget, where Kenya is not the country where we are today. Let me tell you, gentlemen, and I want to tell the people of Kenya the following. We are in a very difficult financial position. This is something that the people of Kenya must understand, and that is why I am happy that we have a crisis. This crisis will help us be candid and speak to each other properly and contextualize where we are. We raised this year 2.3 trillion from our taxes. Of that 2.3 trillion, 1.1 trillion went to debt financing. 1 trillion went to salaries. What did we do? We had to go and borrow to pay the counties. We had to go and borrow to fund our education. We had to go and borrow to fund. Now, the funding gap we have done with the finance bill going down is that instead of borrowing 600 billion, we are going to borrow 600 billion plus 346 billion. That is close to 1 trillion. And let me tell you, my good friends, and I want us to be honest with ourselves. This is not how a country will get to a status where we are proud of our nation. This is not how we are going to. This is not how we are going to grow.
Kenyans who use the airways, those who buy air tickets, in your passenger price, there's what is called the passenger levy. It is 2.5% of the cost of that ticket. Every time you purchase a ticket, Of that 2.5%, 1% of it is set aside for infrastructure development of a new airport. In fact, it is specified.
Okay.
KAA has been collecting that money since 2012. Kibaki, in his wisdom, and that was a wise man, he had seen it that we need to expand JKIA. And he had even conceptualized what was referred to as the Greenfields project. He had ring-fenced 1% of every passenger
to go into
ticket
to
go into it. Ring-fenced. In fact, as of 2022, that amount was around 42 billion Kenya shillings.
Already in the public
It had
coffers.
been collected in the public, which ring-fenced and saved 42 billion. The project which Kibaki had signed was a build and transfer, not even operate. It was purely a contract, build a new terminal.
With who? With who?
With some Chinese company.
Oh, it is a Chinese
company.
Okay.
They were to build, but KAA, the Kenyan people, owned the airport.
Because they had paid for it.
They were going to pay for it.
Okay.
Because they were going to take a soft loan, but then you had the passenger levy that was going to meet the cost. By the time the airport will be done, we'll have collected that money and we'll have handed it over.
Okay.
But this one for Adani, why the secrecy?
We asked this question earlier, and we gave your team 7 days to submit the names of those who have been paid, youth, PWDs and women, and those who have been paid. So what the Senator is asking, for those who you've paid, we are saying thank you. For those who are not paid, what measures are you going to put in place so that these people can be paid without further delay?
Chair, I think, let me give the finance. We have a very precise way of dealing with our debts.
Yes.
Thank you, Chair. Honorable Chair, thank you, His Excellency. We have conditions for paying completed works or when goods are delivered. These are clearly stipulated in law, and when you see non-payment, if it's not a pending bill, then it means the works have not been completed or the goods have not been delivered. So what we are going to do is we are going to check as an affirmative action. We are going to check for the youth, people living with disabilities, and find out the exact reason why they were not.
Thank you. Thank you. Senator Lumanen.
But there's a correction I want to make.
Yeah.
That within the provision of the law, the special group are entitled to raise their certificate at a certain point of their work, and they can be paid. So if I don't know whether you are.
Yeah, I'm getting you, Honorable Joyce.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is, they have to meet a certain threshold for them to raise.
Okay.
They don't just raise without doing any work. But most importantly for the committee to note is, we think the problem with youth and people living with disabilities is the capital, the money to do projects or to complete their contracts, which the governor explained that we are going to look into a possibility of creating a fund that would boost them, give them a shot in the arm to mitigate such occurrences.
Thank you very much,
Thank you.
Finance. Senator Lumanen, you have any question?